executives that have a lot of intestinal fortitude to make the decision if they want to let you experiment. Now, luckily, I work for John Smedley, and everybody knows John Smedley. So the guy's made of intestinal fortitude, and he's willing to take big risks and everything like that. So we're able to experiment and like that, but that doesn't mean that everybody gets to do that. WoW essentially, well, unintentionally calcified the industry a little bit because they made so much money that nobody's willing to try something else because they didn't figure it could make that kind of success. And that, well, you saw the last 10 years, so you know how that worked out. And we're just now getting to the point where everybody realizes that trying to get 10% of WoW is not a good business model. So we're finally getting pushed as designers and creators to come up with something new, and that's letting us break out of the mold.
Yeah, going to the guy with the money and saying, hey, I got something that's never been done before, give me $100+ million, that's a challenge. going to your boss and saying, hey, you know that awesome game out there you've heard of, I'm going to make that better, is a bit of an easier sell. But innovation is what sells in our market. You know, clones don't sell. You know, why clone a game that's still out there? You know, people are going to play the one that they already played. You know, pulling people out of games is not impossible, good games especially. You know, WoW, EVOS games have tiny, tiny churns. You know, the number of people who leave each month is fractional. They've held those people for a long time. What the hell are you going to do to pull them out? You know, and the answer is you're not. You're not. You got to aim for people who are either not into drift out of the MMO space, people new to the MMO space, and those people need innovation. And so, but money is a factor in there, and specifically getting access to it with a crazy idea is tough. But note that you say, oh, it's been clone games since then. No, the high-profile games that have flopped have been clone games. And they're high profile because they have big budgets. They got big budgets because they said, okay, we're going to go take WoW and put it in a different universe or, add this and that to it. And this didn't work. There's a number of innovative games. I mean, Secret World's not cloning nothing. People should be off running around playing that. It's a pretty cool little game. But innovation is also hard to sell sometimes too, even though it's the only thing that sells. And so this is an industry of contradictions. So we will see. We'll see what emerges out of all that. Somebody's going to make a good game in that space. Somebody's going to have a retention rate that is actually goes up and not down in our space for a big profile game. But we'll see who wins. Maybe somebody at this panel. What's ours?
The next event is adult.
So the other answer, it's a chicken or the egg problem, right? Because the real answer to what's going to cause you to break out of the mold is you are. The fans are going to do that, right? Much more than a lot of other things we can do. But then you're looking for the games from us, so how does that work, right? That's the big trick. And we go into the business reasons, but I think that what you will see naturally are things that start to emerge because these games are so big, like systems out of certain games start to spawn people to think about, okay, that system really worked, this system really worked, this system really worked, and then it's kind of an interlocking of the innovation within individual games that'll probably cause the next big breakthrough versus just any one game coming out and just being like, holy cow, it's crayon on the wall online.
That's a very good question. I've been there, done that with Secret World. First MMO, no class, no level, but there's a lot of that people needed in order to make an innovative game and to make sure that the game is successful. As you said, the fans is a very important part, but for MMO it's even tougher because it's not one fan that you need to convince and to need to approach. It's him and all his friends because MMO are social. I mean, MMO people will stick to WoW even if they don't like it anymore just because all their friends are still there. So it's a very large catch-22, and the way to innovate is really to listen to the fan, try to give them what they want, try to remove the firewall of the marketers stopping you from actually promoting the game the way you want to promote it, because often marketers are like, okay, but your game, there's no comparable, so how do I approach it, how do I sell it? And it becomes difficult. I had a discussion this week with Bill because Eternal Crusade doesn't fit in any of his categories. And now I'm going to have to ask him to create a category to fit the gameplay, which is massive combat RPG. And that doesn't exist really as it is, which is player driven. We'll see if that innovation will work on us soon.
Thanks. Next question, please.
Hello, I have a more specific question on the Trinity versus the non-Trinity that you guys touched upon a minute ago. So I know a lot of your companies, your current games or upcoming games, are sort of doing away with the Trinity. And I hear the excuse a lot simply because it's not fun to kind of wait for your healer or your tank to log in or stuff like that, and I don't disagree. But I was wondering, why not just create more intuitive ways to sort of make healers and tanks more complex and interesting so more players play them, and or create some sort of like matchmaking system that can pull from different servers and sort of just get instances going and kind of like matchmake and throw you in there. I feel like games that don't use some sort of trinity and that kind of breaks that structure and stability of combat, I feel like a lot of companies are struggling to create like a non-server fest where you kind of just get your DPS on and hope you kill the enemy before they kill you, and like that structure kind of crumbles.
That's another tough one, Miguel.
Yep, that's another tough one, but that trinity didn't exist in Secret World, and it will not exist again in Warhammer 40K Total Crusade. The reasoning basically of this doesn't exist is because you could switch on the fly on different type of role that you want to play. With Warhammer, it's basically we're focusing on only one thing. There is war. This is only war, and each of the factions needs to conquer the other person's territory. But you're talking about a massive battle with 1,000 people in the same battle. It's not the often people talk about balance and about exactly how to do this. But war isn't fair. A chess game is a very fair game when you look at it. But the queen versus the pawn really is unbalanced. But the pawn can still eat the queen depending on the situation. So it's really a kind of balance which is asymmetric. And more games that are coming, and some of the MOBA, I was at the MOBA panel before as well. Some of the MOBA are putting this into place, and it's really, Game Workshop with 40K in the tabletop version of it. I mean, it's not fair. It's unfair, but it's unfair equally to everybody. And it's the way you manage your piece on the table. You might be a smaller group, you might be, less powerful than the rest, but you're a sneaky bee, and then you go behind the line, and then you conquer by just intelligence and by strategy instead of just matching exactly the spec of your character versus the spec of the other character and then finding your bottom. This is not about it. It's about thinking, and it's about doing the right strategy. It's about immersing yourself in the life and taking real strategic decision that will make you win, not just the strength of your character.
Oh boy. So there's lots of ways to look at this, because now we're back in the language away from the first or the last question we took. But if you're looking about role-specific answers, one of the things that the industry is coming to is allowing you to take on a certain role within any given time frame. So your character can actually take on multiple roles, but they're actually restricted to those roles that they take on in any given situation, right? Or it's your choice how you're going to enter the situation. And then you kind of get with your team and you decide, hey, who's going to be this? So, if you took soccer, for example, it's like, okay, well, today Jeremy's going to play goalie and I'm going to play striker, right? So you get into a situation like that. I think that's what we're seeing a lot more as kind of the trend goes forward. And I also think we're seeing combat that is a lot less of the I have to wait and, then I act and wait and then I act, and it becomes a lot more reactive. So we also see things where you have tells in the world or those things that change the way combat is actually happening. So I think what's going to move us away from this language and yet allow us to keep this language is kind of as combat evolves naturally in these games and it becomes a lot more reactive, it's going to be up to the players how they want to approach each situation.
I think part of it is too is people don't want to be locked into a role, but roles are really useful for group communication. If you have a pure skill-based game, no classes, what do you shout out when you're looking for group? I want a dude with like some kind of tanking skill and some snare and some this, and no, you want to say I want a ranger or I want a warrior or whatever. It simplifies the language of communication, and specifically meeting with friends. There's also a societal trend. Look back at the old school movies. What are they? They're buddy movies. It's the Dirty Dozen. It's Mission Impossible back in the day was, it's a group of people, and this guy's really good at sneaking around, and this one's great at disguises, and this one's the leader, and this one, it's the A-team. Look at modern Mission Impossible, what happens? First movie, spoiler alert, the whole team dies off in the first 5 minutes, and now it's Tom Cruise solo flick. That's not very Mission Impossible. But that's the trend over time. It's tough to point to those ensemble movies when they are the remakes. You can go Ocean's 11, but that's because it's a remake of a freaking 60s movie.
Yeah, roles are always going to be important. There's a couple, to answer the question specifically, there was one aspect of the question you mentioned. Why don't we just let people mix and match cross-server, dungeon finder kind of things? We've experimented with some of that stuff at SOE, And generally what it does, what it doesn't do is strengthen bonds between players. Because they're all over on these worlds, they don't see each other again, they never form any friendships. And that's not what MMOs are about. So when we want to strengthen something, or we want to make something like the Holy Trinity better, because we all liked the Holy Trinity. I mean, obviously it's stuck around for a long time. We've been playing that game for a while. But to be able to make it better, what we need to do is provide mechanisms so that players are no longer looking for a specific class. What they're doing is it's the dirty dozen analogy that you just said. What you're doing is you're looking for a team of players, people that you like hanging with, that fulfill certain roles. You start forming tighter and tighter friendships, and that's what MMOs are about.
I think some of it is, as designers, we're always building puzzles, and then we give the players the pieces to defeat those puzzles. And I think the pieces that we've been using for a long time has been the Trinity. And it's not like everyone's kind of just throwing it out the window, but they're trying to add to it. They're trying to add pieces or puzzle, and they're trying to make different puzzles than what's been made before. And so it's kind of always this evolving door of how do you make something new and interesting, but people aren't used to using these new puzzle pieces or these new abilities and things like that. And so there's a lot of training and figuring out how to teach people those new ways to do it. And so if you step super far away from it, then it can be difficult. And so there's kind of always learning different ways to do that. And I think everyone, loved a lot of the games, and we've all played with those, the old Trinity stuff, and we've solved all these puzzles in different ways. But we want to try to make new puzzles. We want to, bring new experiences to the players and solve new problems. And so, those things still exist, and we still, look at them, but we're also adding to it and trying to come up with new experiences and new things for players to do.
Bill, if I can just add something, that in terms of technology as well, there's something that started a few years ago, is coming, and also the upcoming MMO will be single server technology. So that's going to help in terms of the matching of the people, because you're not separate, you don't have to choose a server, you're not, enclosed into a very small space. But another thing I want to point out is just 2 questions ago, we had someone asking us, break away from the mold. You just don't do anything like the other MMOs. And you say, no, go back to the Trinity. Well, that's what we're dealing with all the time. So we're listening to you guys, and we have to make sure that we make the right choice. And often what you're asking us is not really what you really want. So we have to find out what you really want. And that's the issue. Not what you're asking us, but what you really want.
I didn't realize we could get rid of the trivia and still have it.
So one aspect of MMOs that some games have, but it's pretty much all MMOs, is how they try to become an ongoing concern for a long period of time. It's not released at Christmas and everyone plays it. Oh, yay, that's fun. But it tries at least to last months, years, and years. And one issue is, how do you bring in new people after it's been going for a little while and make them not feel like they're so behind, or it's got to be so complex and everyone else knows it, but you don't know it yet? And how do you bring people back who took a break from it and feel like it's not worth the hassle of learning what I missed and catching up?
$1 million question, Mr. Cartwright.
I think building MMOs is like building a boat. You build this huge boat, you finally get it, you launch it out, and everyone jumps inside the boat and starts running really fast. And so, beginning an MMO is almost like starting the project over in ways. You now have to add to it. You're always listening to the players, and that always adds a lot of tension, because at the same time you're trying to get as many people in. And you look back, a year goes by, and you're like, okay, well, did we make things confusing? Did we add? And so I think if you look at kind of MMOs, they're always constantly doing that. They're always remaking the new player's experience. They're always trying to simplify. I think as a designer, we're always thinking about simplicity. And so that's just an ongoing thing. Every time you add something, every time you add a new feature or a new bit, you're always trying to think of how does this make it easier for new players. And I think if you look at a lot of the MMOs that go, they make huge leaps and bounds on that after they ship. They'll add trials to their game, and they'll streamline how the technology works for new players to get in, or they'll come up with better advertising campaigns. And so it's always kind of a half of the puzzle of developing and a shipped product is